before we march, we have some fantastic speakers lined up for you. 4 individuals that have courageously and consistently stood up for life in their own sphere of influence. Our first speaker is an absolute social media dynamo. If you haven't heard of her, you will certainly be hearing more of her in the future. Her name is Joanna Howe, or more correctly, Dr. Joanna Howe. Joanna is a professor of law. And not only does she speak with courage and clarity on social media, but her unique legal perspective has become a huge blessing to the pro-life movement in Australia. So let's give a huge round of applause to Joanna.
Thank you, Matt, and thank you to the whole Cherish Life team for inviting me here today. It is such an exciting time to be a pro-life Australian, and the reason is Roe v. Wade was overturned last year. Isn't that incredible? And because Roe was overturned, 32,260 babies have been saved and are alive today in America because of the overturning of Roe. And the overturning of Roe has exposed the biggest lie that the abortion movement tells women. The abortion movement tells women that you can't have an unplanned pregnancy and you need abortion to be empowered. And what they say is if you get pregnant unplanned, that's bad because there's a perfect time to have a baby. And so if it's unplanned, then you need to abort your child because that's better for you and it's better for the baby. But Roe has exposed that lie because we now have American states where abortion is restricted and we see that women aren't dying, women are thriving. And as a professor of law and a mother of 5 children, I know firsthand that women can be empowered and have kids and reach for the stars. And although the first wave of feminists, Enid Lyons, Mary Lee, Elizabeth Nichols, great Australian women who were fiercely pro-life, they knew that abortion was wrong. The second wave came along and they sold this lie to women that in order to succeed, you need to eliminate your reproductive capacity and you need to be like men. And what a devastating fix abortion has been because they've told women that abortion is this quick fix. And so I'm on Instagram and this young woman, or she's my age, so she's in her 40s now and her name is Kat, and she reached out to me and she told me the story of her abortion many years ago. And, you know, when she got pregnant, it was unplanned. She had an unsupported partner. She didn't really have anywhere to live. She didn't have much money. And so she bought this lie of the abortion movement, that abortion is a quick fix. And so she went to the clinic. But 10 years later, she wrote a letter to that abortion clinic. And this is what she said. She said, looking back 10 years, I'd say that day took a piece of me, my child that I'll never get back. And it has grieved me in ways that words can't express. My heart is still in anguish, and I cry often and deeply ache inside, and it's real pain. And you can read the rest of Kat's letter on my Instagram account at Dr. Joanna Howe. But you know what I think? I think, what if we'd given Kat an option other than abortion? What if we'd given her financial support, counselling, childcare, paid maternity leave? What if we'd believed in Kat's ability as a single mum to raise that child instead of telling her, you can't do it, you need abortion? That's the kind of Australia I want to live in. But we're at a crossroads. We're at a crossroads as a movement in Australia because on the one hand, Roe has been overturned, but on the other hand, we live in a country where we have the most extreme abortion laws in the world. And you know, I turned 40 last month, and it was 2 years ago that my wake-up call came on the issue of abortion. At that time in 2021, I had 5 kids, a comfy job, I was living in Adelaide, married to a great man, and you know, I never thought that I would be stepping out from that to devote my life to ending abortion in our country. And what changed was this. My son Jesse was having a play date with his best mate Eden, and his mum dropped him around. And as Deb dropped Eden around, she said to me, "Joe, did you know that the South Australian Parliament is about to launch or about to debate abortion up to birth?" I was gobsmacked. because I'd had 5 pregnancies, I'd seen the ultrasounds, and I knew that abortion up to birth kills a baby. And I felt this little stirring, and for once I didn't squash it. And I wrote an opinion piece for The Advertiser, which is our paper. And 2 weeks later, I wrote a briefing note using my legal research skills for the members of Parliament. And each time I was really terrified with those steps. I wondered what people would think of me, and I was particularly afraid of my friends and particularly afraid of my colleagues at the university. What would they think? And then we were sitting down to family dinner, and I was pretty naughty because I had my phone with me still, and we have a rule of no phones at dinner because we're trying to model good behaviour for the kids. But the phone dinged and I checked it, and it was one of the SA pro-life leaders, and he was inviting me to speak on the steps of Parliament the next day while the Parliament was debating abortion up to birth. I got that message and my heart sank. I couldn't do it. I knew that I couldn't do it. I don't know enough. He was asking me with less than 24 hours notice. I wouldn't know what to say. But I told my husband James and my 2 older kids, Laura and Jessie, they encouraged me to do it. So I did it. And then after that, giving that speech on the steps of Parliament, I went into the Parliament and I watched my elected representatives discuss abortion, debate abortion, and never with any sense of the humanity of the unborn, with no knowledge of the data or the reality. And I watched them vote abortion up to birth. And it was 11:30 at night, and I caught the train back from the city, and I just had tears streaming down my face because I could not believe that my state of South Australia had become the last state in Australia to vote abortion up to birth, and I lived in that state in this country. And that moment and that time changed my life because I started to feel a call to step out much further. And so then over the next few months, I realised that I could not stay silent. That moment was a turning point in my life, and I know now that my mission today is to raise up other young people to save mums, save their babies, and to support their dads. You see, abortion is the leading cause of death today in Australia. They'll tell you it's cardiovascular disease, or they sometimes get worried about this thing called COVID. But the reality is, abortion ends the life of 88,000 human beings in our country every single year. Abortion is the human rights issue for our generation. Abortion legalises the discrimination of babies on the basis of disability. And I know that Wendy Francis from ACL is going to talk about this a little bit more in the context of Downs. But I want to tell you about a story of a little 28-week-old baby girl, 28 weeks, so totally able to live outside the womb. This little baby girl, she was 28 weeks, she lived in New South Wales, she was in utero, and they found out that she had one deformed hand. And so her parents searched around for an abortion doctor who would end her life. Imagine that we live in a country where it's legal to end the life of a human being because one hand isn't working. And you know, abortion kills babies that could live outside the womb. So in Victoria and Queensland since 2010, 4,929 gestationally viable babies have had their lives ended through late-term abortion. One baby at 37 weeks in Victoria, that baby was perfectly physically healthy. Her mum was physically healthy, and yet her life was ended at 37 weeks. My own son, Jesse, was born at 37 weeks. In fact, 25% of babies are. And you know, the worst thing, the most horrific thing is that we actually leave newborn babies to die when they're born after a failed abortion. And the courageous Senator Matt Canavan, who's here today, is going to talk about his incredible bill. Yeah, let's give him a huge round of applause. Matt is an incredible man standing up for the unborn. But in Victoria and Queensland since 2010, 724 babies have been born alive and left to die after a failed abortion. And one little baby in Westmead Hospital was discarded, found alive, breathing in a medical waste bin. And little Jessica Jane in the Northern Territory, born at 22 weeks after a failed abortion. The nurse Williams, she calls the abortion doctor, who's not there, and says, this little baby girl's been born alive. She's got good AGPA skills. What should I do? The doctor said, sew, and hung up the phone. Little Jessica Jane lay on a metal plate in an empty room for 80 minutes, breathing, crying and kicking until she died. She had no legal rights to palliative care, comfort care or life-saving treatment, not even a hug. A humane society doesn't do that. So what can we do? The first thing we need to do is we need to spread the word. And so you probably wouldn't believe it seeing me here today, but I was actually pro-choice in my early 20s. I was like a card-carrying pro-choice feminist at Sydney Uni. And it took a friend, and yes, it was a guy, he brought up the topic of abortion with me, and he challenged me on it, and he started asking me questions. And I was finding him so annoying. I was like, why do you even get to talk about this? You don't have a uterus, I stupidly said that. But in my heart, even though I was giving him all this aggro, I could tell that there was something true about what he was saying. I then researched abortion in the privacy of my own time, and I realised that he was right, that every abortion kills a human being, and I couldn't be for it. I ended up marrying that guy, so who knows? Being in the pro-life movement could actually, get you hitched, young people. So we all need to have the courage to have that conversation person by person. One way we can do it is through social media. Now, other than a brief stint with Facebook when I was 20, I haven't been on social media for over 15 years. But last year, I realised that the mainstream media censors us on the issue of abortion. They don't let us talk about abortion. They don't let us get through with the facts and the information that people need to change their minds on this. And so I realised that social media was a way to reach people directly on the issue of abortion. And in July last year, I opened up an Instagram account at Dr. Joanna Howe. So I encourage you to follow me on Instagram at Dr. Joanna Howe. I upload daily content. So I never thought I'd be doing this, but I upload daily videos on the topic of abortion to try and reach young people and older people as well on this issue so that we can raise up a new movement in Australia. So please follow me at Dr. Joanna Howe. The second thing we need to do is to get educated, because the other side, they will try to shut us down from having this conversation. Right now, the Australian Senate has an inquiry into reproductive health care. And did you know the senators, the pro-choice senators who are leading this inquiry, they've had 4 days of oral hearings where they've had Australians come in and give evidence. Not a single pro-life individual or pro-life organisation has been invited to give evidence. And over 1,500 pro-life Australians have written submissions for that inquiry, and only 13 have been published on the inquiry website. So the other side tries to shut us down and silence us, but we need to speak up. And to speak up, we need to be educated. We need to inform ourselves of the facts. So I have started a YouTube channel now at Dr. Joanna Howe. So you might not have social media, but I bet all of you have the internet. Is that correct? Yeah. So please subscribe to my YouTube channel at Dr. Joanna Howe, because I'll be posting weekly content to educate you on the issue of abortion in Australia and to tell you what's going on. And then the third thing we need to do, guys, is we need to be prepared to make some noise. Good. I get the sense that you're with me, so that's good. I think for a lot of us, though, other than the lady that led that cheer, for the rest of us who are probably feeling a little bit nervous about making some noise, would I be right about that? The thing is, you're probably thinking, yes, I can follow you on social media. Yes, I can maybe watch a YouTube channel. Yes, maybe I can have a conversation with someone. But getting loud, that takes us out of our comfort zone. And earlier this year, I was at the Adelaide Walk for Life, and we had 4,000 people with us. My husband was there, my kids as well. But the thing I noticed at the Adelaide Walk for Life is that the pro-life movement in Australia is so quiet. Okay, I realised as I looked around that there was a timidity there. And you might be thinking that's not me. And I recognise there's probably some very noisy folk in this crowd today. But I think as a whole, as a movement, and if I speak for myself, it's taken me, I became pro-life when I was 21. It took me to 38, so 17 years to speak out properly on the issue. And we can't do that. Literally every year, nearly 100,000 babies are being killed en masse through abortion. So we cannot stay silent. We have to make some noise. But at the Adelaide Walk for Life, we had our signs, we had our T-shirts, but we weren't making a lot of noise. And as we did the walk, as we did the little march, my husband, James, bless his soul, he tried to get a chant going. So he and his mate, they started chanting, "Love them both." And, he has a loud voice. He's 6'3", so he towers over me. And so, he definitely got noticed. And some people started to join in. But then an older lady, and nothing against older ladies, there's quite a few here. Good work, older ladies. But anyway, an older lady nudged James and she said, shh, shh, this is meant to be a peaceful protest. And James thought, I'm not setting fire, I'm not torching cars, I'm not inciting a riot, I'm just literally leading a chant. And that's what we do at a peaceful demonstration. And so I really feel called to step out in courage and to help us make some noise. So we're actually going to have a go at this now, guys. So just trust me with this. It takes me out of my comfort zone to do this, and I'm sure it takes you out of your comfort zone, some of you, to do this too. But in a moment, I'm going to chant love them both, and let's see if we can get it going and practice making some noise for the unborn and their mums. Love them both. 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 Louder. Love them both. Love them both. Love them both. Love them both. Give yourselves a big round of applause. Well done, everybody. I want to live in a country where we do love them both, where we love the little babies in utero and we love their mums and we give them everything they need to carry their pregnancies to term and to thrive as mothers and to be empowered as women. I believe in that country. Australia is a great country, but abortion is the biggest stain on our country today. Together, we must end it. Let's do it together. Thank you.